boom, boop, boop. So we're good on that one, and we are good on that one too. I'm sorry, people that are online. Just as good as it gets tonight, all right? Now, all right, but you should be used to it by now if you've been watching for a while. All right, let's see, where are we? Tonight is April 24th, 2024, and this is my little Bible study, and we are finally back in the book of Revelation. Oh, excuse me. Last time we met, let's see what we did millennium last time, right? Ezekiel chapter 44. Yep. Okay, well, today we're going into the next stage. Yeah, we're going to pick it up right where we left off, which, if my notes are right, it is chapter 20, verse 5, which should be right about where we were. All right, so with all that being said, we'll just jump right back into this. We'll get a long way in the book tonight. I doubt we'll finish it. We'll probably one more time getting it completed, but the notes that I have online right now will probably change, but it'll just be the next one. That reminds me, if you're watching on Facebook, the notes that I use are posted on Facebook. Just follow along as you're listening. You can just scroll right down. It should be exactly in the order that we cover it. If not, it's very little separation from it. Yeah. All right. So, and next time we'll set up exactly the same way. I like the way this works because it gives everybody one set of notes that we're using. And let me address these. These notes that you're seeing online, do not think you have things that I've inserted in there in parentheses that are in italics. You have word definitions from Greek and Hebrew that are in it. All right, so don't think that it's a copy of the Bible. That's what I'm getting at. Read it with understanding that I put stuff in. Most of the time, though, when I've added in there, it's just a note to remind me of this or for that. You should be able to distinguish it from the rest of the Bible as you read through it. And if you're listening to the lecture, you'll actually hear and see them as it goes. So with that being said, I just wanted to clear that up because somebody's going to say, well, you're changing everything because, no, I'm not changing anything. It's the notes that I'm using for the lecture. All right? That's all they are. They're not meant to be a copy of the Bible, is my point. All right. With that being said, Father, I'd like to ask this open eyes and open ears no matter where they are. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Revelation chapter 20, verse 5, and it reads, "And the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished." This is the first resurrection. All right. Let's go to the next verse. "Blessed and holy is he that take part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And that was the period that we actually talked about last time. All right, so let's talk about that. We had two groups of priests, right, working in the temple. You had one group that they have to bear the iniquity that they suffered in the book of Revelation with the great apostasy. And the way that they bear it is that they can't actually go into the inner sanctum after the marriage supper of the Lamb. They're a part of it because they did repent of what they had done, but they bear their iniquity by during that spiritual day or that 1,000-year period. They just can't go into the inner sanctum. That's why I said, made a point of making sure that you say, look, if you find yourself in the millennium sweeping the temple floor, well, just smile to yourself. Your day will be up, and there's eternity left. You already made it, because this is what it said. So those that take part in that first resurrection, the second death have no effect. You're done at that point. Okay? Now, with that being so, you also had a group that was outside of the temple that worked in the outer court. Those priests took probably orders from the other group that was inside. It seems to flow in that order anyway. Just like you said, God told Moses, "I'll tell you, you tell Aaron, Aaron tells the people." There's always an order. Like when he did the miracle with the 5 fishes and the loaves, and the 3 loaves and the 5 fishes, was the first thing he did, sit them down. Then he blessed it, and then gave it to the disciples, and they distributed it to the people. There's always an order that it goes. Even follow that through here into the book of Revelation. You have the 2 prophets. God tells them, the 2 prophets tell the people do. Yeah. And there's always an established order. All right. Now, so that was that whole millennial period, that 1,000 years, we covered pretty good detail last week. All right. Now listen to what it says, because now we're at the end of the millennium in verse 7. "And when the 1,000 years were expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison." The reason why, after all this has been done, the reason why is because there's a huge chunk of humanity that still won't be justified, still won't be tested. He gets his last shot. All right? And after this, Well, let's just see what it says. Verse 8. Shall be loosed out of prison, and shall go out and deceive the nations, this is the ethnic peoples of the world, which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, together, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sands of the sea. Now you get the Gog and Magog, right? 38 and 39 of the same prophecy of Ezekiel that we were in last, so I cover this. Now, bear in mind, this is at the end of the millennium, right? Now, 38 and 39 are before the millennial chapters in the book of Ezekiel, and it causes some confusion. But I think the book of Revelation is the one that kind of clears it up, because it's very clear about it. Now, you have two battles here, Gog and Magog. These are two battles that are fought at the same time in two different places, all right? But you put them together and you get that other big word that you hear, Hamon-Gog. You put the two battles together and it's Hamon-Gog. This is the last battle anyway. All right? This is what we studied about the hailstones before and all that, right? Verse 9, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about the beloved city, which is Jerusalem. And fire came down from heaven and devoured them. Now remember, this fire that we were talking about, this is the same fire like Elijah called down, which we know from studying that fire here is pure.
And right there, that verse itself states that humanity has no fight in that.
Right, that's exactly right.
That's exactly
None. Yeah, that's right. God fights those. Yeah, that's right. Gog and Magog, God hammers them. That's right.
You come to the city,
that's right.
I'll burn you to death.
I'll kill you. Right, that's right. That's exactly right. Now, fire here is pure, all right, and it means specifically lightning. You can mean fire.
Which that's the essence of lightning.
Yeah, that's right. It is fire. That's right.
That's the first time humans ever saw fire was after lightning.
Now, it'll come down out of heaven and devour them. This is just like in the book of Numbers, or excuse me, the book of Exodus, when had the hailstones and fire.
Opened the Ark of the Covenant on.
I know. Yeah. But I think that's probably where they got the idea to make it look like that. Because that lightning is, the description of lightning, it hits the ground and runs about the ground seeking out who it was supposed to.
Its targets, right. It has a brain. It's not
it's controlled. That's right. That's exactly right. And that's exactly the feeling I get when I read that in the book of Exodus, anyway.
That is a good way to describe it. That's weird.
I know. I think they probably spent some time working, trying to get a good description.
You can tell the way when they open that book and show the Ark of the Covenant at the beginning of the movie that they did a little bit of work.
They did a little bit of work, to try to find out a little bit about it, right? Not there's a lot of truth to what they were doing, but you can tell that they did try. There was an attempt to understand it. Now, listen to verse 10. And the devil that deceived them, all right, this is the same one that was bound in the pit for 1,000 years with the seal on it to keep his spirit from affecting people. All right. The devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. Again, that's where the fire here is pure. It specifically is lightning.
Yeah.
All right. And that kind of brings a different twist, though, to the lake of fire, right?
You don't survive in something like that.
Right, that's right.
By plasma, you're dead.
You're dead, right. And I think about, we've used electricity to execute people. Well, I mean, exactly the same kind of fashion that we're describing here, because this is really what it is. This is an execution like in Ezekiel 28. This fire that he draws out of that starts on the inside and works your way outward, right? Just start with the soul and then working its way out to the spiritual body, right? But anyway, they're cast into brimstone where the beast and the false prophet are. Remember, they're put into that condition right at the beginning of the millennium, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever, which is just an idiom, meaning there'll be no more.
Yeah.
All right. I know people like to build doctrines about hellfire, but you don't get that in the description. We're going to get real heavy into the next age, and you're not going to find that any of that is even present.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
And it goes out of its way to show you that there's nothing left of that that you remember.
How can you create a new age with a piece of an old age
still existing? Right. Listen, verse 11. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away. I mean, that's some big stuff right there. That's the destruction of the second heaven and earth age. All right? And there was found no place for them. So they're gone, both heaven and the earth. 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. Okay, now here we're going to start trying some traditions here real quick, all right? And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books, plural, were opened. All right? And another book was opened, which is the book of life. All right, now, something I want to point out about this statement is here in the text, the term the book of life, the and book is added in the English text to make it read better. That's why you have that funky italics.
Yeah.
All right. Whenever you see that in the King James Version Bible, that means that's been added by a translator or somebody along the way to make it read more clearly in English. All right. I always note this and try it both ways, and I think in this case this is wrong. I don't think there's going to talk about the book of life coming up, but here, listen to what it reads if it says without it. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. So you got a lot of books. All right. And another book was opened, which is of life. It's a book, another book. All right. Now what's going on? Listen to what it says. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, plural, according to their works. All right. So you have a group here that's being judged. It's not out of the book of life. The book of life is added in this structure. So they're being, what's he going? These books, instead of the books of life, it's just the book that is their life.
Yeah,
okay, right. A record of their lives,
yeah,
right?
They're
And
bad,
because we haven't actually talked about the book of life yet. So these bunches these could be people that maybe they stand justified, according to their own works. I know this goes against Christian doctrine often, but this is not this is not the book of life that it's talking about. Now listen to what it says. So it's another set of books, and there are multiple books. Because everybody says there's one book. It's just the book.
Right there, there's tons,
books, right, and they're of people's lives.
So everybody
and they're judged out of those, right? Right. Now these people probably haven't received salvation in the sense of Christianity at that point. But nonetheless, they are still judged out of those books according to it, right? Now, a lot of Christian doctrine says that they're going to hell, but we're not the judge. I think the point of that is that there will be some that make it. Because what's the point of having it if it doesn't work for some, right? Now, let's go on, though, okay? And the sea, which was really the people in this prophecy, all right, gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged, every man according to their works. So we got two different judgments going on here, right? 14, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. All right. This term hell here is Hades, all right? It's a place or the state of departed souls. So we know from Luke that the place of departed souls is there with God. They're either on one side of the Megas Chasm Rizzo, right, or on the other side of the Gulf, right? So that's the place the hell is talking about. It's that place of the departed souls. Now, those people that were held there, they're given up now. And all of humanity, the rest of them. So you have a different tier judgment. I don't know how to put it other than that way. Yeah. But you have, it seems to me, two distinct things that are actually going on here. Right? Verse 15. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Now here, the book of life, that's part of the text. Right? So in my mind, the way it goes, you got a group that's judged out of the books. If they make it, they make it. Their book is life, and then their name put into the book of life.
Yeah, once
they've been judged, then their name can be written in it. Right. Either way, they've been judged, and their name is put in. That's right. Yeah. Now that's just that's what I get out of it. Now there's going to be a lot of people that think that that's total hogwash because it goes against what they're taught often in their church. Right. But the people that are teaching them very few times actually go line by line, verse by verse through this and try to think about it in any real.
From what I understand, as long as you weren't an idiot and followed things.
Well, it could be right. That has a lot. I believe. I do agree with you. I believe that has a lot to do with that.
For this is
to justify souls, right? To test them. And what's the point of the test if there's not somebody that pass it?
I think a lot of the stupid earthly sins that we deal with in the flesh that we don't have in our normal bodies aren't going to be held against us like people think they are.
We'll repent of them for sure. Yeah, because you repent, it's like, okay, I get it. But you understand the difference between a flesh sin
And
and
a
a soul
spiritual sin.
spiritual
Yes,
sin, right?
exactly.
Like spiritual infidelity,
Yes.
and those things, right? You see
Right?
that whole
spiritual adultery, all
right.
of it. Yeah,
Yeah, the idea that all sin is the same is not correct because okay, if that was so, it's a logic game, right? If that was so, there would be, in the Old Testament, there would have been one sacrifice every year that covered every sin. But instead, if you did this was the atonement.
was the- yeah.
If you did this was the atonement.
Yeah, that's right.
And not only that, it was tiered. If you were the cobbler or if you were the thatcher, okay, well, your penance might not be nearly as much. But if you were either one of the priests or one of the leaders of the children of
nobility,
Israel,
yeah,
nobility, or a priest at the end, that's
your price was
yeah,
high.
that's right.
Yeah.
The prince did it, and then the priest doubled it.
Yeah.
If it was a priest that committed it, it was
Yeah.
double usually what the
Double,
prince
yeah.
was. So the idea that all sin is not the same, or is the same, is I think completely
I do
wrong.
too, yeah.
And it just doesn't hold wash logically.
No,
'cause,
logically,
yeah,
exactly,
Like
yeah.
just stealing a piece of gum when you're 6 is not the same as bearing the mark of the beast.
No,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think.
not
I
even
think
the same
that's
game.
not even a blip to
That's
something
right.
that's cosmically.
That's right. It's not.
That doesn't make it. He's got way more important things to do.
Especially even if
Then
you
worry
repent
about
of
your
it, right.
blip of a life
That's right. So
the flesh.
I'm so glad that God's the judge and it's not people.
Yeah, not
that's
us. Yeah, or anybody else
that's
around
right.
us. That's right.
That's right. But that gets you through. You got that name finally stamped out in that book of life. That gets you your ticket to the next stage, right? And that's exactly where we go in chapter 21. All right. So here we're getting a look at a new heaven and a new earth, right? Well, let's just go on with it a little bit. Chapter 21, verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there were no more seas. All right, well, I can't let this slide this way. All right, and people say I split hairs about this, but no, I'm not. We're going to learn some Greek. All right, let's look at this. All right, the word first. All right, words that it's not one is another word that you would call first or one. All right, and the word first are two different Greek words. Matthew chapter 5, verse 18, listen to what it says. It says, "Verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth shall pass, one jot and one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled." Now, I didn't come here to debate the merits of law, but I wanted you to look at the word one. All right, because here the word one in your Greek Strong's concordance in your Greek index is 3391, and it's mia. All right, and it means one or first. And now, in chapter 6 of Matthew, you use the word first, but seek ye first, 44:12, the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. This 44:12 is proton. All right, and the word proton, in particle physics, when they thought they'd broken the atom down to the smallest component, they named it proton because it was the first. All right, and that's literally what proton means. All right, so it means the first in time, place, order of importance. All right, but the word that you get up in there for first isn't nia, or it isn't proton. It is 44:13, and it's protos, which is different from proton. Now, it means foremost, before, or former. All right, so now if you go back up here to where you got the first heaven and the first earth, all right, okay, if you're gonna, it's the former heaven and the former earth.
Past.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're going to assign it a numerical value, it has to be the correct numerical value, because it's not the first heaven and earth age, but the second. Right. And then without it, because I've seen people try to go here when you talk about the three heaven and earth ages, because it's so foreign to some people. Yeah. And all these ideas that we studied in Job are so foreign to them in church that they'll run right to that and say, no, it says here, first heaven and first earth. You get it, the first one. No, it's protos, it's the former one. Yeah. And the numerical value is 2 that goes with it, because this is the second heaven and the second earth.
Yep.
All right. Now that's a short way of explaining what's actually going on here. And
perfect sense.
Yeah, the translator didn't really understand probably the three heaven and earth ages really well. So to him, he understands what he's looking at.
A lot of these translators probably didn't understand any
Probably a lot of it, right?
text.
They're just working words
That's-
and what does it
that's
mean,
what
right?
they're doing.
And
They're-
I'm glad they did it that way
yeah,
too,
they
right?
need to, yeah, because they could have.
You could have really made, because it's
Oh,
really a
man.
good translation.
Yeah.
The King James version
Yeah,
is really,
I
really
like
good.
straightforward.
Yeah, right. So here it's protos. It's the former heaven or the second heaven and the second earth. All right. So that just helps you a little bit with your Greek and try to understand it. We're going to get into a little bit more here in a minute. Now, the other one that we were dealing with, was, here, get down here, was, we're talking about salt, all right? There was no more seas. All right, I'm trying to find my words here. In your Greek index, your strongest is 2281. All right, it means the sea, and it comes from 251. And 251 is halus, which is halite, is the scientific name for salt, and that's where we get the halus, and it means salt. So we're talking about an earth that's devoid of salt and seas and things
Life.
like this. Yeah, life on a.
Those are the basic building blocks. For
Well,
life, you know what I mean? So,
but the
rock.
the planet's great. No, water doesn't go away, no matter what happens on the earth, but it just changes forms. All right. So for more, it's probably more like Genesis chapter 2, verse 6. Look what it says. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the
Okay.
ground. Remember when we went into Genesis?
Uh-huh.
So most likely what's going on is when the earth, the heaven and the earth flee from God's face, whatever happens causes a condition that puts a lot more of the water back up in the air.
Rebuilding the ozone, rebuilding all that world.
Right, renewing, becoming a new heaven and a new earth.
That would change the landscape.
Changes
It would
everything,
change
right? Think about how many
everything.
people we have to make room for, too. We got most of the planet's water.
Yeah, well,
Right.
that and we've screwed up so much
So
of it
much of
already
it, that's
now
right.
that-
So
yeah.
whatever state, whatever condition that it's in, it's one where there's not salt in wherever water gathers together. Most of it's back up into the atmosphere,
that's
which
interesting.
puts us
That's cool.
back into like the first heaven and earth
Yeah.
age, where you had
Primordial.
Right, that's
Yeah.
right. Where you had giants that roamed the earth
Where the
and things
oxygen
like
levels are
that.
so
that's
high
right. So
and that's
'cause-
exactly what would happen. Once
That's
all that
exactly right. See, we understand a
water
lot
went back
about.
up into hydrogen and
changes
oxygen
everything.
are gonna. Whoa!
Imagine animals not even us. If you're a flesh man, there would be, there's none there,
Yeah,
but
but imagine-
you would be protected from all the light that causes cancers and
Oh.
things like that. That causes mutations and
Yes,
things
your
that
body
are
wouldn't have to
uncontrolled.
worry about protecting
all
itself.
these
It would all
things
just develop
because
growth
of a whole new atmospheric situation in a place where the water cycle doesn't end in seas of salt,
Yeah.
but in fresh waters
Fresh
and lakes
waters,
and
yeah.
rivers that flow across.
Not poisonous.
Isn't that right?
Yeah, yeah.
With much more land surface exposed because all this water goes up in the air and makes it all nice and thick. You got to make room for all these people
these
coming
people,
into this
yeah.
next stage, right? Because you got, and a lot of people will try to tell you there's going to be 7 people there and they're making, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be a really nice place, pretty good and
There are
crowded
literally
actually.
going to be
Yeah, billions
if
of
not
people.
trillions. Of
Yeah,
people,
at least
you know?
billions
Yeah.
for sure, right. Right, so that kind of covers that. So we're talking about a whole new ecosystem, a whole new set of rules that govern all of it. All right. Now, oddly enough, the new heaven and new earth, actually Isaiah spends quite a bit of time talking about it. Go over to that, or follow down in the notes. Isaiah 65, verse 7, this is what it says. For behold, talking about exactly where we're at in chapter 21 of the book of Revelation. For behold, I create a new heaven and a new earth, for the former shall not be remembered nor come to mind. Okay, that answers our question. Wonder if we'd ever remember this age. Apparently, we don't. And as far as the last few thousand years as this age, that's just a blip in time. You wouldn't even be able to isolate it. In the overall scheme of
the universe,
of the earth, right? But nonetheless, in that one, the old one won't even come to mind. And 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 13 and 14 talk about it. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for a new heaven and a new earth wherein dwells righteousness. Wherefore, beloved, seeing that you look for such things, be diligent that you be found of him in peace, without spot, and blameless. Which, of course, is referring to the mark of the beast in the book of Revelation. That's the thing. When Christ shows up, if you're without spot and blameless, buddy, he won't call you a servant. He calls you friend. at that point. And you can't be in a better place.
Yeah.
All right? But nonetheless, Isaiah 65:18. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing and her people a joy. And her people, of course, Israel. All right? That's always been the apple of God's eye. Not just the geographical location of the tribe of Judah in the Middle East, but the whole of the 12 tribes is included in this idea. All right? And he creates Jerusalem. Now, Jerusalem, we're going to talk about that in 21 verse 2 when we get back to the book of Revelation. All right? But here we're talking about that. Okay, listen to 19. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people, and the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor a voice of crying. There shall be no more thence in infinite days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. All right, let's take this one. In infinite days, you ever hear somebody say, oh man, they were 2 years old when they died. They never had a chance to live. And that's exactly what he's saying. Or maybe somebody a lot older, it's like, oh, they weren't done yet. They had so much more to offer. He's saying in that kingdom, you're not going to won't even enter into it.
There's no.
I still hold by the idea that this entire age is to teach us what it's like to face death.
Yeah, so we can respect
so
our
we
mortal
can,
lives
yeah, that's right. So,
Yeah.
It can end.
It can.
Because to us, we have no concept of it. Right. After all that time, we had nobody we ever knows ever been lost.
Yeah.
We have no concept of what that means.
What that means, yeah.
And this, by being born of the flesh, buddy, we understand that full well. From the time you're born, you start dealing with your own mortality. I remember being a child and thinking these things, going to funerals and saying, well, one day it'll be my turn to lay there. I mean, that's right.
Parents.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So, and that's just my opinion, but I think it's probably pretty close, among other things. Among other things. It's not a singular idea, but among other things.
But there seems to be two key points there. Don't be a dumb follower.
Right.
And
trust what's said.
Yeah. Respect the fact that you have something. That's unprecedented.
That's beyond you. It's more, it's part of something bigger.
Cosmic.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Very cosmic. Right, that's a good word for that one for sure. Right, but nonetheless, they're not going to hear those things be said.
Yeah.
And it'll go on. And for a child shall die in 100 years, which means he's immortal. But the sinner shall be 100 years, shall not be accused. There's not going to be a sinner to be accused at 100 years. It won't matter. All right. And this, I like this. They shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat of them. Listen to verse 22, and then we're going to go back. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. As far as the days of a tree are the days of my people and mine elect. There's that catchword again for those that got to go inside of that inner sanctum in the millennium. All right, shall long enjoy the work of their hands, and that's the work we do now. All right, as much as in the millennium. All right, what does this mean? No, okay. We've all worked for people in our lives. Some good people, some not so stinking good people, right? And I know at the end of a payday, when I still owe, trying to figure out how we're going to have food, you got to pay the electric bill, got to put tires on the car, and you feel like that the work that you put in was a lot more than what your paycheck covered when you watch others in front of you who benefit from your labor, and with no actual of the work part being done of it. And that's exactly what that's getting at. And nowadays, when you plant a vineyard, baby, that's your vineyard. But your labor is your labor. It's not somebody else's to make somebody else better. The labor that you put forward would be labor for you and for yours that you keep with you. I think that has a lot to do with it. We sit here, we work our butts off, but we get taxed to death. I mean, on everything, right?
Income, but taxed on the items we buy.
Yeah, you go buy stuff. You're always paying
tax.
Tax, right? You're not going to have it. And when you're done with that, though, you owe a percentage. You owe it's on a credit card to 20% or 18% or whatever it is now. And plus an interest, you're paying 15
Which is
years
all
out of
illegal under
30.
biblical law
Right,
anyway,
right,
you know what I
right.
mean?
You're
So-
paying your interest on your loan, your $100,000 loan. You pay the first 10 years to interest,
Just
and
the interest,
to no
yeah.
principal. Right. Those kind of things. You're not going to have that, buddy. When you build a house, that's yours.
Your house,
Nobody's going to benefit from your labor except you, or somebody that maybe you decide.
Yeah.
You might build a house for somebody, but yeah, but. Those kind of things there. I like that idea,
me too.
because, buddy, that means, you work hard. Well, good, you benefit well because you worked hard. If you're lazy, you can sit over here. Well, you can just sit
And
over
if you
there.
work hard with others, everyone
benefits from it.
was
Right,
a hand
right.
in the work.
Across,
Yes,
that's
yes.
exactly right. Right.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, that's right. Now, when it comes to the houses, remember John chapter 14 says this: In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, and I go to prepare a place for you. Now, this mansions is mono in Greek, and it means, it doesn't so much mean a building as a dwelling place. Man, in my mind, because I look at the universe, when we get done with this and me and our next,
It's not gonna have such a
I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
going somewhere else.
Yeah,
I want
me
to go
either. I
see
don't wanna-
what's
yeah, I
going
wanna see
on.
what's on the
Yeah, that's
universe.
right.
That's right.
That's right. So what he's saying is that in his universe, like I said, his elect. What did he say? Mine elect shall enjoy the work of their hands.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big universe, and we don't have an inheritance. If you don't bear that mark of the beast, you have the same inheritance that a priest has, which is you don't get any
we all don't
land,
get our own
but
planet,
God
you
is
know what
your
I mean?
inheritance, and
Yeah.
He owns all of it.
Yep.
All right, so that's, you talk about working for a payday. There's more in this payday. People think it's just their works that make up your white raiment, right? Well, that's only part of it.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, it's a big plan. Remember, he's telling you about those in the last days of the elect. When you're getting these things done, especially when the Antichrist got the storehouse from heaven that he feeds you from. You ain't got to sweat it. All right, all you got to do is not bear the mark of the
Yeah, that's
beast. Yeah, it's real simple, isn't it? All right. Listen to what he says about the election, all right, and those that long enjoy the work of their hands. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 2. The elect, according to the foreknowledge of God the Father. That means beforehand. It means before you were born, they wrote those names in that Lamb's Book of Life from before the foundation. If you remember when we were back here in chapter 20, we were talking about Judgment Day, all right, it didn't say the Lamb's Book of Life from before the foundation. It was just the Lamb's Book of Life. There's another book, that one book, that's an old book. That book was written long before those names went into the Lamb's Book of Life. All right? And that's what he's talking about, the election according to the foreknowledge of God the Father. Through the sanctification of the Spirit unto obedience and the sprinkling blood of Jesus Christ. Don't forget that obedience part. All right? That's where studying the Bible gets you over then in the last days, is because you will know these things are coming and your mind is prepared. It's the mental part that gets people. It's not the physical part. We can all survive, but it's the mental part is where the game is where the game's played, all right? And grace unto you and peace be multiplied. But that's the election that he's talking to in that next age, buddy. That's a big promise right there. All right? Okay, Isaiah 65:23. And they shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth in trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. Now, of course, there's no flesh and there's no offspring, but your children that you have, though, now they're counted in that. So that's why he's talking about us, because he's kind of addressing the election, right? So he's not. Don't worry about that, because I'm bringing your kids with you. And buddy, that makes me feel good, because I screwed up raising some of my kids, and I've done the right thing.
Yeah.
And so that makes me feel good in my spot. But that also accounts for a lot of people that we know.
Yeah, it does.
For a lot of people that didn't get to hear the truth, didn't know. Imagine if everybody took the time to do it the way we did it, sit down, break it down, and study it. There'd be a lot more people that would call themselves Christian and they would actually have an idea what they're talking about. I'm always trying to emphasize to people that no, you have to go out here and talk to these people. You got to go out here and talk to a 13-year-old that's got Google, and when you start talking about how the world's just 6,000 years old, he's going to go, whatever, you nuts?
Yeah.
Right. Now you have to be able to talk to him. No, okay, well, go ahead and Google dinosaur, and then let's talk about this. And you can, if you understand your book, you can relate to people. No, it's not 6,000 years old. this age is a few thousand years old, but the world's millions and millions of years old, right?
Our world existed long before we did.
And imagine how many more people
But we
would come.
existed with it.
That's right, but we existed with it. That's exactly right. And how many more people that if they understood those things instead of when they go to church, they just a potato pew and they sit there and they
do their
pass some
duty.
money and listen to this guy and clap
out
and
their
say,
social
"Oh,
presence
that's
and-
right," and then go home or go get a burger
That's
or
right,
whatever
that's
it is.
right.
You know, it's so much different when you sit here
Yeah,
to
it
actually
is,
try and
too.
study what it means,
You're
because
trying
then you
to actually learn.
right, and it means something then, and it's reinforced in your mind because now what you know, nobody can take it from you.
Exactly right,
Nobody
that's
can
right.
take it now. Right. When before you could be confused with
And
a lot of
easily
things.
influenced as well.
Right,
you know
that's
what I mean?
right.
Yeah, so.
Oh yeah, it's easy. It even says that it's easy to get. You can get off here in boom boom land real quick. Start talking about Ezekiel's wheels.
Yeah.
Think about how fast you fall into just
into
absurdity.
that hole.
That's a
Yeah,
deep
that's right.
hole, and
Yeah.
people are just clapping their hands and saying, yeah, all about it, right?
That seems right. Yeah. Follow it.
Right, that's right. Just following along. Right, verse 24, and it shall come to pass that before they shall call, I will answer. Now that's a big deal. And while they're yet speaking, I will hear. Right, that's before you even know you got a question or before you have a problem. The answer is already there. I hope not that easy though. I really hope not, because half
takes
of what
the
makes
fun.
us what we are is the struggle. Is when it isn't easy. It's when you have to
That's
really
when
work
our
hard. When
personalities
it
and our
takes you a
character really
while.
show, yeah.
That's right. And those are the things that build who we are.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot of that character. We'll take a lot of that character from this age with us into the next
Yeah, I
one.
think so, too.
That's probably part of the lesson scope that we should be learning while we're here.
It makes us more diverse.
That's right. That's
in our
right.
spiritual bodies,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. And it makes it also more respectful of people around
And
us.
because we can actually step out and walk
right,
in their shoes. now,
right,
you
that's
know,
right.
It's a lot different. Yeah.
That's right. But I love that. Before they call, I will answer, and while they're yet speaking, I will hear. And the wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like a bullock, and the dust shall be the serpent's meat, and there shall not hurt nor destroy, and there shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. Let's break that down. So we have a beautiful system being set up. Have a beautiful planet. We got heavy atmosphere again. Now we have these animals. And they're talking about from this age, you have a lion laying down with a bullock. And they're all both eating straw.
Yeah.
The animals have spirits. I wouldn't doubt the spirit of T-Rex is still roaming, probably a buzzard or something like that, you know. And they have spirits, and they've never offended God in any way in doing anything that they've ever done. But nonetheless, you're talking about these animals, though. But these carnivores are eating straw. So the one that was a herbivore is still eating plants. The one that was a carnivore is now a herbivore, and so there are no carnivores. So you're in a system. Not only is it a system with a renewed and rejuvenated planet, we have a new set of animals. Think about the last time
violence isn't based in the way we eat.
it didn't even exist in it,
yeah.
right? Even in the animals
Yeah,
in this
even in the
system,
animals,
they don't run around eating each other. They just run around eating plants. So imagine what kind of a lush planet that has to be. 'Cause, think about Behemoth and all those. How big they were, and they're talking about, goodness, a return to things like that.
Yeah.
And you standing right in the middle of it all. All right.
I'll get to grow some new cool plants.
Listen to this, what it says. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. All right. Now, this is a flying city we're talking about here. And we're going to get into the description here in a minute. But there is something biblically for sure I want to point out about this. One is in Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 8. Listen to what it says, because this is speaking of Jerusalem in this heaven and earth age, all right? But it's the geographical location, because this is the new Jerusalem that's coming to that spot that he's talking about here in Ezekiel, okay? Now, this is what it says. Now, when I passed by thee, I looked. First, let me set this up a little bit better. Jerusalem wasn't always named Jerusalem. Jerusalem in the old days was called Jebus, because it was the capital city for the Jebusites in the region. It doesn't become known as Jerusalem until David, the second king, conquers it and then renames it Jerusalem. All right, it's already an existing city before then. All right, and he's been talking about Jebus before she's called Jerusalem, before David took it over. Well, listen what he says about her. Now, when I passed by thee, I looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love, and I spread my skirt over thee, and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee, and entered into a covenant with thee, saith the Lord God, and thou becamest mine. All right, now he's talking about that geographical location. All right, whenever you get that term, a man stops and spreads his skirt and covers a woman's nakedness. I mean, I'll draw a picture. They're both under there naked. All right, that means wed. That's what that whole thing is supposed to say. Is that just means he married Jerusalem at that spot. So God is a polygamist. All right, so let's just get with it because he's got a couple other wives too. All right, both houses of Israel, but he also divorced both of them. All right, so he's got a pretty varied life with his wives. All right, and I don't say that even in a jesting way. I say that so people need to know those things, because how many times you see somebody look down the end of their nose at somebody that's been divorced?
That's right.
I mean, right down the end of it.
Yeah, when God himself divorced.
That's right, when he divorced both houses of Israel. That's a matter of fact, Jerusalem remains his only faithful bride, and he ain't too happy with her if you read all this. And that's just for somebody out there, because we've covered this one pretty good, right? But nonetheless, go back to chapter 21, verse 3. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. This word tabernacle is 4633, and it means it means a tent or a hut, literally figuratively. It was called the tabernacle. Remember when they made it in the book of Exodus? Remember when they built the tent and they had all the stuff that he told them how to build, the Ark of the Covenant and the altar and all that stuff? That was called the tabernacle. But here in the next heaven and earth ages, you're going to find that there's no tent, there's no temple, there's no nothing. All right. So this word then tabernacle means to mean what it actually means, which is habitation. The New Jerusalem becomes his habitation. His habitation is with men, his tabernacle. Because there is no physical tabernacle, because he's present, and we'll get to that as we go here. But I wanted to bring that up. But for God himself shall be with them and be their God. And that's exactly what I was getting at. Verse 4, and God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes. This whole age, this whole heaven and earth age, he'll make everything that made you hurt, everything that hurt you, he'll wipe it away, and it'll be worth it in the end. All right? And there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these things are true and faithful. Now, we've worked pretty hard the new heaven and age, right? And so we got it's actually a beautiful picture when you get to really thinking about it and breaking it down and judging from now. Now think about this too. Also, other examples when they went into the promised land. And in Numbers, when he sends them into the promised land to look around the promised land, they bring back grapes that have to be, that one cluster is so powerful that, or so big that two adult men who can wage war have to carry it between a staff between the two of them. That's a pretty. No wonder we got such big animals probably to develop. And look at what they're eating in a world full of stuff like that. All right. Now we talked a lot about the new heaven and the new earth, but now guess what? There's also a new you. All right, because along with that new heaven and that new earth, there's also a new you. It's the third version of you that's going to be. It'll be the last one that ever is. All right. Now, there's not a whole lot, but there is stuff that we can understand about it. And I think the reason why we can is because it really paints a cool picture, really, if you want to think about it. All right. Now, think about this. The flesh Jesus, what's it say? That he was the express image of God. All right, looked just like him. All right. Now, when Jesus walked earth, he looked like a man, and we're made all in those images. So if Jesus was the express image of God, that means our flesh body is the express image of our spiritual body. All right. Now, that was one of them. So if Christ looked like a man in this heaven and earth age, and then he looks, then they're created, that's the image that we have from the first one. Well, the third one is not exactly the same. All right, and listen to what it says here. Now, in Revelation chapter 1, we already got kind of a look at it, all right, but I want to refresh your memory. Chapter 1, verse 13, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, is because it is the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his feet, and girded with his paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. That just means he's wise, all right, and white as snow. So he contains wisdom. And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
Intelligence.
Right, very much so. But not just that, they look like that. They look like, if you look at him, it's like, ooh. Listen to what it says. And his feet like unto fine brass as they were burned in a furnace. And his voice is the sound of many waters. And we've studied that many waters, what that sounds a lot like. So think about this image. When you look at him, he's glowing. I mean, it's whatever it is, it's power. And whatever that body is made out of,
it sustains itself.
it's something, right? Yeah, I mean, it's something that we can't even conceive of, right? Listen to what it says.
The little nuclear reactors.
It's something. I mean, think about that. Yeah, it is glowing. It's like it's been in a furnace and it's on fire.
Yeah.
All right, and there's more about that. Now, listen to what it says. And he had in his hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a 2-edged sword, which is his tongue. Right, and because he's telling the truth. And his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. So you look up at the sun, you get an idea. Oh, buddy, okay. Man, that's something. All right. Now, also remember in Ezekiel, what we learned in Ezekiel. Listen to what it says in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 13. And this is just one of the creatures that Ezekiel's seeing in this chariot. All right. Listen to what it says. And as for the likeness of the living creatures, this is what they look like. Their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. So just like the appearance of Christ, these creatures that they're seeing here, these are cherubim, so they're never going to be born of flesh. They've already got, they're locked in just like Christ after his red. He's not coming back as that little child in the manger anymore. He's coming back as a conqueror. Yeah. You just got to look at what he looks like. God he is. That's right, as the sun shineth in his strength, right, with coals of fire. We've talked about coals of fire before. Remember, those coals came off that altar and they got thrown to the earth, which is what we're experiencing now, right? All right. So I can't tell you what that third age body's made out of, but buddy, I can tell you whatever it is. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah. Well, that's right. Now, there's another thing that we need to get about. We got just about long enough to do this, all right? Because I definitely want to stop in an hour. I'm tired of going. I went an hour and a half with these boys and about killed them one day. Because you know me, I'm and they're by the end of it. They were like, that's right. All right. But there is one more thing about this spiritual body, and that's just your third age spiritual body. It's different from the first age. It's different from this age, buddy, and that's something to look forward to. Because this one doesn't get sick. It doesn't suffer from the effects of gravity, illness, the age, radiation. Nothing. That's right. And I'm going to have fun. I wonder how far I can ride a 3-wheeler through the universe. I'm going to have fun. All right, because if I can't break it, I'm going to try. I know me.
I want to find some vacuum.
Me too.
And make it my mount.
Okay,
now ride around on something that eats the vacuum of space.
Well, I've said stuff like that before. Like, I mean, this body, we may be drawn to stars that go supernova.
Yeah.
And we just bask in some weird kind of cosmic rays. You don't know.
How do we know, like I said before, how do we know that all these planets out here just aren't the seeds of life that we're supposed to cultivate?
Well, I've heard one other teacher talk about the first heaven and earth age, and he says when the heavens were changed, it changed everything. He said, everything was. That's why I think if we spend enough time plinking around on Mars or on Venus, we will find evidence that there was fossilized life somewhere on there.
There has to be somewhere.
Right, I think so. I firmly believe that, but it dates from that first heaven and earth age. Right, it changed. Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. Now, Galatians chapter 3, verse 28 lets us in on a little something about the spiritual body, though, that's really important. Well, a couple things. First is there is neither Jew nor Greek. There's neither free nor bond. All right, let's look at that. So we're Jew, we're talking about the southern kingdom, Judea.
It's race.
Right, it's also a national identity.
Yeah.
The same with the Greeks.
Yeah.
They were a national identity. That there's not going to be that
None of that. There's
distinction.
no, we're all one.
Now, there will be kings and queens of the ethnos that are out there, yes, but they're all fit in, even if they're not geographically in around Jerusalem, are all fit into Israel, which is what you want to be. You want to get into Israel. People don't understand that, but once they're baptized as a Christian, they are also baptized into the house of Israel as a part of that inheritance. That's what that whole Old Testament is about. And they miss all that often in Christianity, but all that richness and that flavor that comes from Abraham and Sarah and what Isaac and Rachel did, and or not Isaac and Rachel, Rebecca. Their histories and things, that is all part of the richness that comes with that baptism that you're supposed to undergo. All right, but nonetheless, there's neither free nor bond. All right, so that gets back to your labor, like we were talking about before. No longer, well, your labor's yours. All right, you're not going to be bound to somebody for a paycheck, and your work's not going to enhance them more than it is you.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Now, that's fine. That's great to work hard, and I'm not complaining about it. Any job or anything that I've ever had, in case no matter who's listening to this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just talking about what the Bible's saying. And there is a disparity often in companies. You just look between the executive world, and then you get the people down here doing the real work, working 50 hours a week, trying to,
doing the actual labor,
doing the actual work. All right. Well, you're not going to have that separation where they get $50 million and you get your $30,000 a year. That's not going to. It's not going to be that way. All right. But nonetheless, there is neither male nor female. All right. For you're all one in Christ Jesus. All right, that last form, much like the first heaven and earth age. I know there's people, my dad hates when I say this because he believes that in that heaven and earth age that there was male and female, but I don't believe that.
I don't think there was either.
Because we're eternal.
It doesn't talk about the difference when the fallen angels fall, that first third, when they fall, there is no difference in male or female. It's all angels.
It's all angels, right. All the sons of God, right. They're all the
right.
Ben Elohim,
so
right.
I would have to agree with that.
Right. But now it's real important in this age because it does develop family bonds and separations of sexes.
Yeah,
like it says.
It pulls
it together.
Yeah.
And it gives you, because it's a rough place, and everybody needs a good partner if you're blessed with a good partner. But everybody needs a good partner, and that takes two, especially in the world we're working in. It takes two people working, it takes two people hustling, it takes. You got to juggle, and then cry, and then juggle some more, and pick up broken eggs and all that good stuff. That's just the way it is. All right, we'll get through it nonetheless, and make it look good in the middle. All right, but nonetheless, there is no male or female. You don't have that, so that means there's no sex. Which is fine by me.
Me too.
But because after you get older, as you get older, it doesn't hold the same appeal it does to when you're 19 years old. It just changes, and everybody said back then it will.
Meaning too,
when you
take
learn
sex out of the equation, and I think as a spiritual being,
yes,
love needs to be more meaningful than just something primal like sex.
That's right. Now, also remember this too. Sex is pretty good. I'm not going to say it's not. But okay, God never will take something away from you where He doesn't replace it with something that's better.
Yeah.
All right. So and
we know we don't meld minds.
And you always have special relationships with people.
Yeah.
And not necessarily male or female. That's not the distinction. No. But you do have those special relationships with certain people that are very important to you for one reason or another. And I think that extends from the first heaven and earth age. I think that's why our children. That's why when first time you see your child born, you love them. They don't
look like something unfamiliar.
That's right. They don't. It looks like that's right.
Familiar.
That's right. Completely.
In your brain already knew that's what your child was.
That's right. And I truly believe that's where they actually come from.
I felt those feelings.
That's right. I have too. Right. Now, just to back up this idea. Now, this is just not something that's spouted in Galatians in one place, but Luke. And also Matthew and Mark also all say the same thing. And I'm going to read the story out of Luke, and then we're going to look at the catch and the other two, so we don't, because it's the same setup for all the Gospels that talk about this. All right. So the one we're going to look at is in Luke chapter 20, verse 29, is where we're going to pick it up, I believe. Yeah. And remember, these are some of these lawyers, these scripture lawyers, the scribes and the Pharisees coming down there talking smack. They're always after Christ, trying to get him to mess up with law. Always it's a law, a point of law. And
They're
this is
trying to
one of
find
them.
him fallible.
Yeah, they're
That's what
trying
it
to,
is.
they're trying to find him fouled, right. All right. And this is one of their attempts. And there were therefore 7 brethren, and the first took a wife and died without children, and the second took her to wife, and he died childless. All right, this is an Old Testament law that if you're
pass it to the next brother.
if your brother doesn't have an heir, that you take his wife
take
and raise
his
up
wife
a
as
seed so
yours.
his branch
Yeah,
doesn't
so
die.
his branch doesn't die.
All right, and they're absolutely right, and that's what the law says. All right, verse 31, and the third took her in like manner, the 7 also. So all 7 brothers had her. And they left no children and died. And last of all, the woman also died. All right, so here the scripture lawyers have set the trap. All right, therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of them is she? For 7 had her to wife. All right, and Jesus answered and said unto them, the children of this world marry and are given in marriage. All right, now, the term world here in your Greek index is of your Strong's is 165, and it's a word you know. It's aeon. It means eon is what we would say in English. All right, and if you remember, it means properly in age. You can compare it to 5550, which is chronos, which means the space of time. Okay, so it's not world. All right, it's age. All right, so the children of this age marry and are given in marriage. All right, so it doesn't count the first age and it doesn't count the third age. All right, and listen to what he says: that they which be accounted worthy to obtain the world are age 165, and the resurrection of the dead, which is the third age. Neither marry nor given marriage, neither can they die anymore, for they are equal unto the angels, and are the children of God, being the children of the resurrection. All right, now that sounds pretty equal. I like that. I'm glad that Luke uses that because he's a doctor, so he's kind of logical.
Yeah,
Equal means that, like when you do algebra, if you have 7 over pi times x is equal to 7, it does mean that no matter what this looks like on this side, when you do all of it, it's
still
equal to 7. It's the same thing. No matter what it looks like.
Ways you did
and
it.
that's right. It still is the same. It is equal to.
Right.
All right? Verse 20 and verse 30. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor give in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. All right? Now, that was in Matthew. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Matthew chapter 22, verse 30. He's the same setup. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor give in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. Mark says it in chapter 12, verse 24. And Jesus answering said unto them, same setup, 7 brothers, do ye not therefore err, because ye know not the scriptures, neither the power of God? For when they shall raise from the dead, they neither marry nor give in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven. All right? Now, I think that sounds pretty clear. Now, this word, we have to attack this. The word angel is angelos, like Los Angeles. All right? It means a messenger. Any soul can be a messenger. All right? Now, I was going to do an analogy here, but we're running out of time. I'm going to close real quick. And we'll just pick it up there with the analogy next week. But we're going to pick it up with what's the difference between an angel and a soul. All right, and we'll start there next week.
Message?
What's the difference between the two?
Message.
Yeah, a message. The term, what it means, a message is exactly right. But I got that little analogy I'm going to use, because sometimes that helps people really kind of understand it.
Yeah.
Because it really does. It's a tradition of men. What we're going to really open with next week is what an angel is, because there's so many. I heard a preacher on TV talking about during the millennium there were going to be people in spiritual bodies. There were going to be people in flesh bodies. There were going to be angels running around. There were going to be fallen angels running around. And I was like, I did not get any of that out of the same book of Revelation that we just studied. I mean, I didn't get that. And that's right. Everybody wants to be special. It's kind of what it comes down to. That's it. We're all the same. That's right. But anyway, we're going to pick it up there. We're going to a little bit more on what it's like to in your spiritual body, we'll pick it up with the analogy and then move into a little bit more about the spiritual body, and then we'll move on in and finish this bad bear up, because there's a little bit more, really, to go.
Interesting one.
Yeah.
Mind finishing it.
Yeah. So we're going to stop with the analogy where you'll see on the notes, and we'll pick it up there. But you guys, we'll see you next time. Take it easy. Oops. And broadcast and.